The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
Pompey kicked off in bright sunshine at Fratton Park on a very warm evening. Reading had the first opportunity after 5 minutes when Doyle sent a free kick into the box, but Burns fired wide at the far post. After 10 minutes it became apparent that Reading were taking a strong hold on the game and fired a corner wide after 15 minutes. Stevens stopped Strickland nodding a Devlin cross into his own net, with Kognovsky following up, and his effort is cleared off the line by Ahmed. The ball runs loose for Waddingham, but Stevens saves from point-blank range. On 25 minutes, Doyle is brought down by Leroux and sends the free kick just over the bar. Pompey had enjoyed a good spell up until Doyle's miss, creating 3 half chances. On 30 minutes, Waddingham came close to getting on the end of Swift's free kick, but no joy. Reading took the lead on 34 minutes when a Hebe Asian hand got clear and hit an angled shot that Killett pushed clear. The keeper also keeps out Doyle's follow-up, but Garcia is on hand to lash the loose ball into the roof of the net. 4 minutes later, Reading made it 2, when Erhub Ashenhand muscled clear of Matthews and stroked home. Half-time Pompey 0, Reading 2. Straight away after half-time, John Messinho brought on Andre Dezelle for John Swift. The second half began quietly. About 10 minutes in, Pompey forced 2 corners which were successfully dealt with by the visitors. On 54 minutes, Leroux is booked for a foul. Messinho brought on Bianchini and Poole for Waddingham and Boat, and 5 minutes later substituted Andrei Segwechik and Singer for Leroux and Kosnovsky. Straight after those changes, Farrell nods over from a Dezelle corner. On the 80th minute, Reading, who had made a handful of changes, had Fraser booked for a foul on Sigacic and had seen Kairoa burst through on goal, only for Ben Killett to charge off his line and make an important save. Still Pompey 0, Reading 2. On 87 minutes, as the game began to peter out, Reading Stevens comes to the edge of his box to deny Bianchini. On 90 minutes, the fourth official signalled 5 minutes of added time, to which there were plenty of groans around Fratton Park. On 93 minutes, Segacic swings in a cross and Theo Singer glances home a header on his first team debut. Full-time Pompey 1, Reading 2.
Pretty much all of the team at Pompey Sound, and I dare say you too, good listener, good Pompey fan, said that the cup doesn't matter really, this cup doesn't matter really, but at the same time, any defeat hurts. You know, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll have forgotten about it, and we'll almost start looking back on it and saying, yes, it was a good job we opted out of the milieu of that not meaningless competition, but a competition which threatened the fitness of some of our players if they'd gone hell for leather for the 95 minutes, threatened the stamina of players if we'd picked the first team in full and they'd gone at it for 95 minutes. We'll have kind of forgotten about it, but on the evening of any defeat, it stings. You go home just with the wind taken out of your sails. You find yourself just questioning whether the bright start to the season, which followed a very bright close season period of new acquisitions and good results in friendlies, whether we were kidding ourselves that we had found ourselves in a position where we were going to be a seriously mid-table championship side, possibly even better than that. And so Reading turn up. We put out a team that was designed to do some kind of a job, and we're not going to pin John Messinho down because he would never come close to admitting it. No manager would, that the team's job was to get dumped out of the cup. We've heard that has gone on in some corners of football, English football, but we don't like to believe it of ourselves. And although we felt that this was a cup competition that we didn't really need a great deal, nevertheless, as I said before, and I know you feel the same now, the evening of and possibly the morning after, the day after a defeat, it always just brings you down a little bit. However, we have to now focus on Norwich. 3 points there and we could be top of the table. I'll say that again. 3 points against Norwich and we could be top of the table. John Messinho is saying nothing about this coming season that you wouldn't expect him to say, but it makes for enjoyable listening anyway, because there's beginning to be a bit of a spring in our step, isn't there?
what I want to try and achieve with the side this year is, of course, win more games and build upon where we were last year, but also just be a lot more competitive. So even the draws that we had at the start of last year, Leeds, Middlesbrough away, I didn't think we were particularly competitive yet. We got away with a point at both, but they could have been very, very different results. So to come here and be as competitive as we are with against a side who I'm sure will take a lot of points at home this year as they did last year was very pleasing.
You always get some idea of John Messino's considerable ambitions when you hear him talking in those terms. First of all, the first thing to talk about is the fact that he is using the word competitive a lot. And I think one of his perceptions from last season, particularly the first half of last season, is that when it came to mixing it, we were coming off second best too often, but not no more. If you watched anything of the Oxford game, you will have seen us coming away from the 50-50s, leaving a little bit behind us on the other guy. Not trying to hurt anybody, not trying to even break the rules. We didn't concede many fouls, actually, but we were there and we were mixing it, and that's what John Messino wants. It's also good to hear, of course, the fact that he is talking in terms of being competitive. But what does that actually mean? Would it scare the bejesus out of him to be in a playoff position? Because he might feel that he has not got the squad for the Premier League and he wouldn't want to do what happened to that lot up the road last season. That would be bad for Pompey and bad for him. So the feeling is gradually growing on us that John Messino is saying we're going to consolidate, but consolidate well this season, 2025 to 26. And then we're going to build again going into the following season. And that's when we might be able to play for promotion. And when that happens, the following close season to that season, then we see if we can build a side that can stay in the Premier League. Wouldn't that be great if 2 or 3 seasons from now, we were looking forward to finishing, whatever it is, 4th from bottom in the Premier League? And knowing John Messino, that's what we'll get. Always interesting seeing us as others see us. This is how leading Reading website, the Tilehurst End, summed up Pompey before the Carabao Cup match on Tuesday evening.
Portsmouth boss John Messino is confident that Reading target Matt Ritchie will move on before the transfer window closes, with fellow outcast Abdoulaye Kamara also likely to depart in the coming days. Ritchie has been in discussions with Reading about a potential move to the League One side. Portsmouth are open to the transfer and would even consider terminating the 35-year-old's contract to facilitate the move. Coincidentally, Reading visit Fratton Park for a Carabao Cup clash, with former Pompey players Paddy Lane and Mark O'Mahony potentially featuring against their old club. Matt's still our player, but honestly, I expect him to leave this window, Messino said. While I'm not sure what's happening on Reading's end, I know Matt's weighing up his options. Hopefully we can find the right fit for him so he can get back to playing regular football. Reading have struggled early this season, losing their first 2 League One matches, including a 2-0 defeat to Huddersfield, where ex-Pompey defender Jack Watmer found the net. As for Kamara, Messino seems optimistic about an imminent move. We've got a couple of clubs interested in Abdoulaye, and we're hoping to wrap something up in the next week or so. Tom McIntyre, who recently returned from injury after missing pre-season, remains available for transfer. None of the 3 players have been assigned squad numbers for the upcoming season, and they won't be registered in Portsmouth's 25-man Football League squad, even if they stay beyond the September 1st deadline. Tom's back in training as of Friday, Messino added. He needs more time to get match fit, but if any clubs come in for him, we won't stand in his way.
Clubs preparing to take on Pompey, especially at Fratton Park, are understandably very respectful about the stadium and in particular the fans. And the fact that the team now is sophisticated but can look after itself, and that we have a very stable management system in place, thanks largely to some long-term supportive owners. I heard a phrase used about American business people that applies to Michael Eisner, it seems to me. They are called generational in that they're prepared to devote a generation to a project rather than expect immediate success or, success in a very short period of time. And other clubs are respectful of that because so many clubs are owned by characters who don't have the same stability, and therefore they see an enormous turnover in managers and in staff, playing staff as well. But they're also very respectful, other clubs, aren't they, of our manager, who has had an unusual route into football, because he was playing his football for a college side in the United States right up to the age of 18, which is normally when professional footballers are either given the option of a professional contract with their club that they've been with for many years, or given the opportunity to go and find themselves a professional contract elsewhere. And when John Messino arrived back in this country after a number of years living with the Messino family in the United States of America, he had no grounding in football. And so they had to work out a scheme, a plan for getting him into football, and it worked, and thank goodness it did. Pompey Sound's Steve Bone is on a roll after getting his prediction for the Oxford game spot on.
Our record at the Kassam, which I see they're going to have another new ground soon, aren't they? They've now got permission to move again. So that won't have lasted very long, the Kassam. Our record there is pretty good, and it was one of the 3 away grounds we won at last year in the league, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. I think Oxford might struggle a bit this year. They kind of kept pace with us last year. It was a little battle between the two to see who was going to finish higher, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Last year. I think they might struggle this year. I think we might just sneak a little 1-0 win.
And you can hear Steve Bone's piece regular across Pompey Sound, starting from the Thursday when we talk to him. We also podcast his piece on the Thursday evening. So if you're a listener and you want a podcast, then you need to Google Pompey Sound podcasts, and you'll see Steve top of the list on a Thursday.
Portsmouth narrowly avoided relegation in their championship return last season, finishing 16th and 5 points clear of the drop. It was their first year back in the second tier after clinching the League One title in 2024, finally escaping the third division after 7 long seasons. Pompey's pre-season couldn't have gone better. They went undefeated with wins against Woking, Farnborough, Crawley Town, Reading, Brighton's under-21s and Dutch side Pek Zwolle. The momentum carried into their season opener, where new signing Adrian Segicic marked his debut with the winner at Oxford United. These teams have recent history, meeting twice in 2023-24, with Portsmouth coming out on top both times in high-scoring affairs. A 3-2 away win followed by a commanding 4-1 victory at Fratton Park. John Messino has been at the helm since January 2023, when he hung up his boots to replace Danny Cowley after a 9-game winless run. The 39-year-old had quite the journey before management, from playing college ball at Notre Dame to an 18-year pro career across England's lower leagues. He's proven himself in the dugout too. The summer transfer window has brought fresh faces to the South Coast, including former Reading man John Swift from West Brom. They've also added midfielders Mark Kasnowski and Luke Leroux, plus exciting young forward Adrian Segicic from Sydney FC. Wingers Florian Bianchini and Yang Min-hyuk have joined on loan from Swansea and Spurs respectively. While key midfielder Marlon Pack is sidelined with a knee problem, several new signings could make their debuts. Colby Bishop remains their main threat up front. The 28-year-old target man has been Pompey's top scorer 3 seasons running with 56 goals since joining from Accrington. Keep an eye on Segicic too. The 21-year-old Aussie playmaker shared the A-League Golden Boot last season before his move to England.